Hey everyone, welcome back. I have some interesting stalking stories for you guys to listen to. I hope you all enjoy. With that said, sit back, relax, and enjoy. I'm a male, and I was around 8 or 9 when this happened. Obviously, I don't remember much since I was a kid, so I had recently asked my mom what she remembered about that day. My mom was taking my sister and I to see a movie. We decided to stop at McDonald's to kill some time. A strange guy wearing a purple suit had followed us in and had sat at a nearby table without ordering anything. After we finished eating, I got up to go clean up my retainer in the bathroom sink. The man followed me into the bathroom and then stood between me and the door. He asked me if I wanted the juice box. I said no, but he had told me that I needed to go out to his car with him so I could pick out the flavor. My parents had drilled into my head to never go with a stranger, so immediately I knew what was happening. I ran past him and out of the bathroom door into the lobby, then told my mom what had happened. He had followed me out and started coming towards us. My mom stood up and started making a big scene. She had loudly asked him why he was trying to get her son to go out to his car with him. He said that he was just trying to give me a juice box, and then hurriedly left and then got into his car and drove off. Luckily, there was a police car in the parking lot, so we had waved down a cop and told him what had happened. Unfortunately, the man in the purple suit was long gone by this point. I had forgotten most of what had happened before and after the accident, but I still vividly remember the terror I felt alone in the bathroom with him, blocking the door. It was only 10 to 20 seconds, but I'll never forget that uneasy feeling. I'm really grateful that my mom was such a rock star, and that she knew how to make a scene to scare him. I have no idea what would have happened to me had I actually gone out there with him. I'm a 17-year-old female, and I recently quit my job at a fast food chain, after working there for almost 10 months. The story is part of the reason why I didn't want to stay much longer. I worked the drive-thru from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., almost every weekend. Seeing regulars was not uncommon for me, and I would even memorize most of their orders, and fill it in as soon as I heard their voice. Most were very polite, and occasionally tipped, but on one particularly busy day, there was an unfamiliar weary presence. I just started my shift, so I was running food to the window. I had made eye contact with the man at the window in his car, and immediately felt uneasy. I brushed it off because we were busy and I had to work to do later on once my manager set up my cash drawer. I took over drive-thru, orders, payments, etc. There were a lot of orders, so I wasn't paying special attention to specific voices or menu choices. But one had caught my attention. It was a hesitant voice asking for a sandwich. I give the man the total and he waits in line. He arrives at the window and it's the man from earlier. I assume that he just forgot to order something. Now his car was pretty low to the ground, so he had to extend his arm out to hand me his debit card. As he does this, he then mumbles something under his breath, without even breaking eye contact with me. "I'm sorry, what was that?" I questioned him. I said, "You're looking beautiful today." At this point, I'm super uncomfortable. Not only do I have a boyfriend, but I'm also underage, and I'm not interested at all. "Oh, thank you," I said, nervously. I then handed him the bag of food and then quickly shut the window, until he drove away. I half-heartedly complained about him to some of my coworkers, all male as we usually do with weird customers. But I still had a strange gut feeling. A little while later, when the average wait in our line was about 10 minutes, I hear a familiar voice over the mic, asking for a cup of water. It was low, but agitated and forceful. I saw his face through the windshield and walked away from the window, so that my manager would take care of him. This happened a couple of more times that day, asking for straws and other free things at this point. I was pretty sure that he was just trying to look at me. I was so frustrated with him the rest of my workday that I'd went to the bathroom and just cried. I usually have pretty thick skin when it comes to this kind of stuff, but I was just so over it the rest of the night. The night went on and I didn't see him again. I thought that I'd probably never see him again. That is until my very last shift of the store. A few months later, we weren't very busy that evening, but it was much later in the day than the first encounter. I didn't recognize the voice, but I had immediately recognized his face and car. I just swallowed my pride and took his payment, trying not to make eye contact. I had called my manager and he said he would give the food out for me. As suspected, the man was back in the drive-thru. Not long afterwards, for a cup of water. This time I knew better. I had sent a male coworker to the window to get him for him since I was busy anyway. Once given the water, the man had actually asked my coworker, "So you guys close at 11 now, right?" I was so glad that I was getting picked up by my mom that night. I was constantly looking at the window, just making sure that he wasn't out there waiting for me. Call me paranoid, but I listened to enough true crime to be overly cautious, okay? I was reading some posts in this group, and they made me remember a story of my own. In 2015, I was in college and working evenings, closing shifts at a fast food restaurant. One night I was working front counter when a group of young men, probably early to mid-20s, piled out of an SUV in the parking lot. They came in all smiles and laughter, probably 5 or 6 of them. Nothing that weird, just some happy people stopping for food. They then ordered a massive amount of food, way more food than they could possibly eat. While they were waiting, one of the guys started telling me I'm really cute and asked if I'm single. I lied and said I had a boyfriend. Once they all had all their food and drinks, they sat down to eat. But it wasn't long before they were all back at the counter ordering more food. This time it was to go though. The guy paying kept saying, "I'm so rich. You guys are lucky to have so much money." Then he was bragging to me, saying he has his own business and is going really well. I asked him what he did, and he was being really sus. He just told me distribution, whatevs. I don't get paid enough to care, I guess. Check them waiting and him trying to flirt with me again. I told him their food would be ready soon. I asked a coworker to bag it for them, and went to the back to tell the manager. I was getting weird vibes. Manager told me they noticed and also got bad vibes. She said to hang out there in the office until they leave. When they got their food, they started asking my coworker where I went and if I'd be coming back, asking for my number and what time I got off work. She didn't give them any information, thankfully. My manager came back to the office and told me about it. She said I should stay on the clock until they leave because she wasn't letting me walk to my car alone. Thank goodness for good people like that manager. Then our male manager came back from his break and we told him what was going on. He told me he would walk me to my car, but since those guys were still standing around the front counter, he would be taking me out the back door instead. The way the kitchen was laid out, if you looked from the proper angle, you could see straight back to that door. But you had to be looking at it exactly that angle. They must have been watching. As soon as we rounded the corner of the building, there they were, walking out the front. My manager walked me to my car, told me to lock the doors as soon as I get in, keep my phone ready to call 911 if they approached, and do not drive off until after them. I was panicking. I sat in my locked car and watched as they all piled into the SUV. I sat there for at least 15 minutes before they pulled out. They turned the direction I would have gone to head home, then parked at a gas station a couple businesses over. When I pulled out of the parking lot, they pulled out too, and tried to follow me. I drove super fast and took the long way home. Didn't stop for gas, even though my tank was low. I recognized one of the guys' mugshots about a week later, posted in a local group. They had stolen a credit card and spent thousands of dollars before they were caught. You can never be too careful. I'm so grateful for those coworkers keeping me safe that night. This was probably 6 or 7 years ago that this happened, but I do often think about it. So one day I was just having a little me time before work and felt like running inside the fast food place to sit down and have lunch. As I'm in line waiting to order, an older man around 50s or 60s, I'm like 23 or 24 mind you, walks up kinda close and starts chatting, asking me what my fave dessert was at that restaurant. I was being nice and said I liked the chocolate cake. Then he asked if I'm from around here, to which I just nodded and said, "Yeah." He stated that he lived way out in the woods, and I just nodded and kind of started to ignore him while it was my turn to order. I ordered my food, and it came up quickly, so I took my tray to a table by a window. I had forgotten about the guy at this point, and got up to get condiments and stuff. When I got back to my seat, I saw that he was at the table just in front of me, facing towards me, just staring at me, with his food in front of him. I got a bad vibe and moved to the other side of my table, so I wouldn't have to face him. I then realized I forgot to get something at the condiment area, and got up to go over there. As I foolishly walked past that creepy man's table, he looked at me and said, "You don't have to sit alone, you know." I looked at him and said, "I'm fine. I want to be alone," and continued to get what I was getting. When I walked back, I went around the other way so I didn't get past his table again. I ate quickly, not even sure I finished because I was just weirded out. I could feel him just staring at the back of my head at this point, so I just got my tray and got up to throw it away and leave. As I walked past his table again, which I had to do to get past to the garbage cans, he looked up and creepily smiled and said, "Hey, well, it was nice to meet ya," and I just threw a dirty look and walked away quickly. I left and kind of sprinted to my car to make sure he wasn't following me. I mean, maybe his intentions weren't bad, but I kept getting a weird vibe. I think about it often, like maybe he was genuinely looking for someone to chat with. I was just looking to eat and chill without being bothered, so maybe it could have been too rude. I hope you all enjoyed those fast food stories. Thanks again for listening. If you did enjoy it, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I love hearing from you guys. And with that said, as always, stay depraved.